Well, good weekend all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your metal wrap-up. And this is your weekend edition for Friday, 3rd of November, 2023. So we'll look at weekly charts and talk about that. But before I get too far, I am not going to be in my studio Monday through Thursday. So you're not going to get my beautiful face. I did have a haircut in case you're curious about that. I'm going to take off. This is my breakaway before we get into the Thanksgiving, the Christmas. I'll be here through all that, well into January. So this is my 4 days. I waited for the central banks to have their meetings, the important ones to me, the Bank of England, Japan, European Central Bank, and us. Then I waited for the jobs report, and now I want to leave, enjoy a few days in the sun, and then get right back to business. It's a good break. It's before the holiday. I have a lot of things that I'm working on at this point, exciting things for you, by the way. So let's talk a little bit about where we're at. I give a whole spiel on the financial market wrap-up, so this will be just shorter. Suffice to say, the market's trying to transition. I don't know if it's right in doing it or not. It's trying. It's trying to say we've got some lows in place in the stock market, and we're probably going to get a rally into year end. I believe that. I think it's trying to say the dollar has made a near-term top because interest rates are slipping back. Whether they stay down, I can't answer, but they are slipping back. I see that going on. The euro coming up and might go to the 109, 110 area before it's all done. I can see that argument. Metal markets having a bit of a problem there. Gold has a better story going for it with a falling dollar and falling interest rates than anything else because inflation isn't beaten yet. What we are seeing is that jobs report is wobbled. 150,000 jobs, that might even get revised next report. Who knows if it'll be higher and lower, but they've taken 100,000 jobs back over the past 3 reports, roughly, if my math is right. That's important. Your unemployment rate has gone from 3.4 roughly to the 3.9%. Now that's 5 points? Okay, that's big. It's not yet the Shem rule. In my full research tonight, and I'll put that out Sunday night, I've written up the Shem rule. Go look it up, S-H-E-M. Very important rule, interesting. It's a laggard rule, and I go into it in my financial report. Okay, let's leave it at that. So when we come to the gold market, you came down, challenged, got close to the 18-week average, couldn't get under it, and you're staying right here. We know the war in Israel continues on. We know that any surprises that come aren't going to be peace. They would be more fighting and possibly other characters, namely Iran, getting involved. But so far, even the talk tough from Hezbollah today and the threats against the American fleet that they made and that we will end up bloodied again the way we did in Afghanistan, they are correct on. You heard what I said. They are correct on. America has no stomach for 20-year battles. We don't want to be caught in their Mideast forever battle that never ends, generation upon generation. Let them fight. Let them do what they're going to do. Israel's going nowhere, and they just lose more and more people, and then they go the terrible others. They started the war. End of discussion. Fact, not opinion. They started on October 7th, this level of the war. Israel's to blame for an awful lot. Two-nation should be there, a separate state. I have said this. People don't agree with me. I'm sorry. Everybody's got to learn to live together. Can it be done in the Middle East? Can it be done with all the history? Unfortunately, probably not. All right. What we've seen here is the market has come up, certainly knocked out all the bearishness that it had at that point. You can see how the rally has come back out of left field. This is called a vertical price rally. It means you take, this is my flipper for my stations. Think of it as a dart, and I throw it at the board. I'm going to buy gold. Okay, where are you wrong? I'm not wrong. I just want to own gold. Well, then you don't need a futures chart. That's the first thing. But if you bought it here, you're under a lot of pressure. And then it perked on up. Well, we know that 3 weeks ago, the war began. And that certainly elevated everything. And now with falling rates and a falling dollar, that gives a little more to it. Israel's situation is certainly a catalyst for it, and falling rates and the headwind of the dollar strength being removed temporarily or permanently doesn't hurt this market. Is it in an uptrend? It is in an uptrend. You have higher lows, higher highs. You don't want to see it fall back to 1932 because if it does, what it does is it breaks the uptrend. Where might it go on the upside on a weekly chart? Well, unfortunately, you're there. If you take a look, your high today, 2017, your Bollinger Band's 2019-10. And I know you're going to tell me, Ira, it'll go right on through it the way it did here. And you might get brief periods of time if something terrible happens in the Middle East where it does that. But barring that, you're wrong. The market more times than not hits the band and pulls back, can get under it, but it pulls back. 95% of the time, the algorithm will adjust to price and keep that going that way. It's a natural resistance point. I'm not the only one that sees it. You think the pros don't realize how to work with this? I have a course on it that we sell a number of them on because people want to learn the importance of how they look for what we'll call natural resistance and support zones, but they're not natural. They come off this algorithm. When I look at momentum, you're overbought. So I could not tell a client of mine, guess what, Joe or Mary? Get into that gold. It's going to go. The situation there's out of control. Oh, it doesn't matter if it's overbought. No. Pay no attention. That Bollinger Band thing's a bunch of nonsense. It goes. Okay. The gold-silver ratio still favors the gold market. Now, the daily chart is seeing the daily, not the weekly, is seeing the silver trying to flip-flop. Hasn't done so yet on the weekly chart. In silver, this market tried to be bullish today. Now, look at the settlement, 23.28. You need it to close over the 18-week average of 23.41 to go home finally and say higher lows, higher highs. I think we're going to the up. And if you take out 23.88, which you didn't do, you hit 23.75 this week, then you've actually got the whole pattern in place. But you didn't need it because this high here already took it out there. And we don't know if this is going to be a peak or not yet. You won't know until next week. Therefore, close. But I think the bulls are trying to grab some control right here. In the copper market, now you got a lower low, higher high. You have a market that was oversold. A lot of resistance. What do you do up here at the 372.80 to 373.45 levels is going to be super important. We know copper supplies in China have run short. I mentioned it during the week in the dailies. You can see how the market has come up, and it's up not much this week. It's up 1 percentage point. 355 points, but do look for serious resistance a little higher. In the platinum, we came alive. Why? UAW. Could it be any simpler? Okay, you got your workers back. And this probably has a second life. How many of you think that GM wants to go out full-fledged and build electric cars? I didn't hear any. You're right. They're pushing back the plans. You think Ford's rushing at it? Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. They will keep releasing electric cars, but not in the volume you expect. And I want to share with you something. For most of us, a hybrid works just fine. If you think about it, you're a city driver like I live in Chicago, other people LA, and so on. Do you really drive more than 60 miles a day? Most people don't. Don't get me wrong. There's a number that do, and I know a number. You have a brother-in-law used to put on 200 miles a day. I couldn't believe it. So that type doesn't work for him. He's better off with an ICE because 200 miles a day, I don't want an electric car yet. I want something, if I get stuck and have to go somewhere else, where am I going to charge? Okay, I better know where those charging stations are. That's my point. It's a wonderful idea. It's an idea whose time is here, but it hasn't fully come. It will. And we will look in the world at much more electric cars than America. We're not throwing the money at spending that. We have too many wars to support. We have a border that we have to control. We're going to lose sanctuary cities now in America. I hope Chicago goes that route. I'll be voting for it. We can't support all these things without the federal government giving you the money. Open border policy doesn't work. We don't need Camilla. We don't need Joe. We need people to get in there and close our border. I welcome them all. I hope you do. I welcome these people the right way. They should be able to work, pay taxes, do what they need to make themselves better lives. I don't believe in a closed border of not allowing people in. Quotas? I don't know. We don't have a quota system. It seems to be working. If these people had work permits, by the way, just a question for you. If they could work, what would happen to wages? You think there'd be wage pressure? Well, I don't think so. Wage depression. These people would work for less. Do you think that they'd supply and be willing to pay taxes? I think they would be willing to pay taxes. Do you think then that they would become part of our communities? I do believe that. I think they're miserable because they came here with a dream and we're breaking it. Okay. Then I look up here. A lot of resistance if you can keep going. So bullish. I do think you'll find support at the 18-week average of closes. I'd be disappointed if you took out this low here. Barring that, I could see the higher prices. And in the dollar, I think it's going to retreat back to wherever the 18-day average, 18-week average comes in and the 100. This whole zone. That's where I think it's headed back to. It's just on the verge right now of turning down. Did it lose an embedded reading? Yeah. So the only way I can get bullish again is it's got to re-embed this week we're going into. Barring that, I'm looking for the market to get down here before it goes through this week's high. That's how I'm viewing it. Now, I talk about this and a whole lot more every morning in the futures and the ETF stock videos. Join it. This is the most exciting time to trade there is. You're in a transition period, not transaction, transition period, where we might be going from this big correction back into the year-end rally in stocks. Energy's coming back down. Other markets giving you some action. Currency trade is wonderful. Once currencies get going, there's nothing like them. They're the biggest market in the world. And they really get going. I love it. It's my favorite markets. I'm excited. These are the kind of markets I want. And I think we're going to have this right into the Christmas period. So join me. At 5:10 in the morning, I start recording my futures. I cover 40 charts with all this, both weekly and daily. And in Spider's ETF stocks, I do the same thing. I rotate. I'm always mixing things up for you. And on the weekends, you get my weekend editions for the longer term. How do you get it? Go to our website, iraepstein.com. Words research. Look on the top center. You'll see it. You can move your cursor to the top up here. Give it a click and away you go. I'm Ira. You have yourself a great weekend. I'll see you all a week from today. I hope you miss me. Take care.